If you want to save money on your trading card purchases, we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code ATNIGHT to get 5% off your order. Hey everybody, welcome to Nexus at Night, your weekly Vanguard podcast. It's so hot we're either shirtless or pantsless. Guess which one? I'm Atlas.
I'm Matt.
All right, let me just take my shirt. No,
No. So
I'm following the rules.
Yeah. Well, yeah. On this very sweltering week here in the western and eastern United States, 86.
It's just hot everywhere.
It's just hot. It's summer. Fuck summer. Anyway, so a couple announcements have happened in the game of Vanguard. The first one is that V's pretty much dead.
Who could have foreseen this?
Yeah. So this is coming with the announcement of like the next WGP season for Vanguard in Japan. So for the first time in like ages, they're finally having premium tournaments again after History Collection. But nothing for V. So we're just gonna have like D and premium. And so at this point, most of us have taken it as a sign that like the format is dead, right? Because we just had this big revival set that reprinted a bunch of like V stuff, and they're just not even bothering to hold a tournament for it.
Yes. And also there was no new, there wasn't even a like, all right, 6 months down the road, you're getting a V thing. Nothing.
Yeah.
So we were like,
V premium, damaged premium forever, and then left. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So V, we were already like as a show, we're kind of whatever about because it's kind of just premium without the fun.
No, I actively hate V, but that's just me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, and the main reason, and this is done through months and months of like surveying my locals and a couple other locals that I've been to. 9 out of 10 people that I talked to, give or take, only continued to play V Premium because there was no overtrigger. Not the format itself or just...
Yep. V format is unbearable. Like after Phantasmal Steed Restoration, it has just been a zero-sum game of like whatever the current meta is being the worst deck ever.
Mm-hmm. Your
so
Shadows, your Steam Maidens, all that stuff.
Yeah. And at some point, like current V format is very like cyclical, right? Like it's just like the same 2 or 3, either the same deck or at least the same clan being meta over and over again.
What, Gears to Shadows to Gears to Golds to Gears to Shadow, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, because it was like when V like first ended, I think it was like Prisms, Gurgit, and Luard were like the top 3 decks.
Yeah.
And then they like hit those decks, and then Gold Paladin was still good. And then people figured out like Anje and Highlander were good. And so like Bermuda Triangle kept being meta. Then we got Steam Maidens, and Steam Maiden was tier 0 for a while. And then they hit that, and now Luard and Anje are meta again. And so it's just like the same 3 decks cycling over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I know some people are a little sad about it in regards to like, that means if I want to play Vanguard, I got to play with the OT. Stuck with it forever, which is kind of a tragedy in and of itself. But I think for the health of the game, this is probably pretty good. Because at regionals now, you don't have this weird splitting of the ticket where somebody who wanted to play Overdress or V is stuck, or depending which place you were in, whichever one shared a day.
I mean, I feel like that's a little premature because this announcement was only for Japan. I'm going to go check what the schedule is for the current BCS season.
So you think it might still be around in the West for a while?
That's why I'm checking.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Well, we still have rules for V Premium on the rules and regulations, so...
Well, they would never remove that anyway.
Yeah.
Just in the event that there is a V tournament, even if they aren't hosting any specifically.
Yeah.
So that
So
would
I
never
think.
go away.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. 'Cause I'm not really seeing like if we're actually going to have it, but I'm like for the moment I have to assume that we are because there's nothing to saying to the contrary.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I think this is just people like taking signs from Japan to say that like V is dead but like I do feel like this is skewing the narrative a little bit because it's not like Japan was running V tournaments anyways.
They were just doing overdress for the most part, right?
It was like just standard for a while, and in the wake of History Collection, they're finally running premium again. But like, it's been like 2-3 years since Japan has played premium. Like last time we had a premium ban list, Japan was just confused because they didn't play the format.
Yeah, that I already kind of knew. But in regards to V, I just thought it was just around still in both places.
No, we just. No. I mean, if you look at like the WGP results, it's all just overdress. There's nothing for like premium or V, because like nobody plays these formats.
Yeah. I wouldn't say like for good reason or whatever in regards to V, but it just kind of felt like for a game like Magic, which has how many like viable formats going on at the same time?
Well, really, there's like 3, but you could pretend there are a lot more.
Mm-hmm. So, like something where if you go to a Wizards of the Coast sponsored tournament, what are you going to see? 3?
You can all pretty much always play Modern, Pioneer, and Standard.
Okay.
Those 3 you could probably guarantee that you're able to play at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to play, like Legacy and Vintage are pretty much not real formats at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly due to the just inaccessibility of the formats. Like those formats can never get new people because the cards are just so ridiculously expensive.
Got it. And then Commander, is that a factor?
Oh yeah, you can always play Commander. Yeah. I just dislike Commander a lot. So
yeah, no, that's just what I see at one of my locals.
Yeah. Like, Commander is like evergreen, right? You can play that anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't really go out of their way to play Commander with random people. It's because everyone who plays Commander is kind of like playing on like a different understanding of what they want the format to be, and so you like pretty much it's objectively correct to have a conversation about like how powerful you want your decks to be and stuff, which is kind of annoying to have. Like if you're playing against a lot of random people at a big event.
Okay.
Which is why some people just play like what do they call it? Competitive EDH, so that the power level is understood to begin with.
What's EDH?
EDH is the old name for Commander, Elder Dragon Highlander.
I see.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Classically, it was a 100 card singleton format, which is where the Highlander comes in, and then you played with some legendary creature, perhaps one of the Elder Dragons, as your commander.
As your commander, say.
Yep. Ooh. Yeah. And then when Wizards made it their own, they didn't call it Elder Dragon Highlander, they called it Commander and branded it as such. But if you meet somebody who is sufficiently old, they might call it EDH or Elder Dragon Highlander.
Got it. That makes sense. I came across this thing a couple weeks ago where it was like Victorian slang. That's like, I guess, the Magic version of it. It's your version of not up to dick.
There's much more There's much more old things you can say. Like for example, standard is a format in Magic. Yeah. If you talk to an older Magic player, they might call it Type 2.
Type 2, like diabetes? What?
No, like Type 2, because like back in the old days, they had several different formats. They had Type 1, which is Vintage. They had Type 1.x, which was Extended. Type 1.5, which was Legacy, and Type 2, which was Standard.
They have a 1.x and a 1.5, as Correct. If that's not confusing
they were
enough.
Completely different formats. That's right.
Oh my god!
But like those names did not last, but people's understanding of it, right, and people's like use of it for a long time did, even well past when Wizards stopped using it.
So it's kind of like how I still call it HBO Max, even though it's Max now.
Correct.
Or, you still call it Facebook.
You're just used to the name, so you just continue with it.
Yeah.
Which is not a problem. Most people understand, or with a little bit of explanation. If they don't, they'll just ask like, "Oh, what's type 2?" You'll say standard, like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. What's type 2? It's what my father-in-law has. Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But you can pretty much always play like the 3 formats I mentioned. If you want to play like a constructed, what I would call a real format. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Commander. I thought Commander was more interesting when they did not print cards specifically for Commander. I think now that they like specifically print cards for the format, it's kind of lost its luster.
I see.
But I understand, like, it's very popular for a reason, but it's just not for me.
Gotcha. Let's see. So, knowing that, I mean, like, again, this is one of those things where, I'm pretty certain this is going to fall in line on our end too. Like the BCS Springfest for V had 10 teams.
Yeah.
In California, and so
it was a disaster. Throughout the whole season, like there were several instances of them not having enough V players to even make it a team event. Like they just converted to singles because there were too few people.
Yeah, so I suspect that. Yeah, I suspect, and it's funny because like, I meant to bring this up earlier. And I think gifts have done more damage to premium than the Overtrigger ever will, or could even
agree.
Or could even hope to do.
we really need to make this a video, not like a podcast episode, but just like a little video in and of itself. Because
I will do that.
That
when
definitely.
I stop being, honestly, if I wasn't so fucking lazy, I would be the like Paul from Team APS of Vanguard, where I'm just like constantly making videos about like whatever random topic of the week comes up.
Mm-hmm.
But like, fucking gifts are just so fucking tragic.
True.
And I could not have predicted that this would be like the end result when they first were shown. Could not have predicted.
I mean, we can go back and listen to our takes
let's do
of this. Well, I'm just saying, like, for people going like, man, I could not have predicted this back then. You're right. Maybe we couldn't have, but
we didn't.
We have that documented.
It's only been like 3 years. Actually, no, it's been 5. Fuck.
It's been 6 years, my dude.
That was 2018 when the reboot happened.
Oh, for V. Yeah, it's been. Sorry, I thought you meant like this show. I was like, it's been longer than 5 years.
This show has been like 7, isn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't we start in like 2016?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least this group.
Yeah. So, something close to that. We're like around July is our anniversary, so I think it's something like that. Anyway,
so it's like, I hate gifts.
Yeah, I think when they were
sorry, go ahead.
When they were first showed off, I think we were like excited for it because it was like a new thing, but also you did not have the ability to get like 3 of them in one turn.
Correct.
Yeah. I really should go back and listen to those episodes. I think that would be interesting. Now, if people want to do our work for us, please, I'll go back and look up the episode number, and then you can go tell us what we said to us at Nexus at Night on Twitter. Okay.
What were you going to say, Matt?
I forgot.
Gifts are ruined more than the OT ever did.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
and that's just like. So, like, I think playing with the OT is actually like not that huge of a deal, but the fact that like it's annoying and it makes a lot of non-games, and I would prefer that they did not exist. But gifts are just so much more like steamrolling and crazy, and that's kind of the thing I didn't like about Festival Collection is that it kind of like leaned on that. But that's just like my opinion, man.
On History Collection, you mean?
Oh yeah, History Collection.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, like, my take on that is like. The Overtrigger can occasionally ruin games, but like gifts just ruin the whole format, right? Like, I hate sitting across from Dimension Police because they're just going to be like, all right, put Force 2 on my Vanguard, Laurel, double the power and critical, all right, here's 100k for crit guard break. Have fun.
I don't think I usually when I play against DP players, they're doing force 1 because they can stack so many. Because they have so many cards that are just like, throw a force.
I mean, they
Vanguard.
just gain free crits a lot too.
Yeah.
Well,
But either way.
But I see what you're getting at. So yeah, probably a good thing that V's going away.
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
the damage, like,
Mhm.
you can't people can't play the format like constructed setting anymore.
Mhm.
But like, I just feel like it's still like it will not be forgotten in a way.
Gone but not forgotten.
Yeah. Because like the consequences of gifts are like too extensive to undo anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have so many of them. We have a ton of cards that like create gifts that rely on you having certain gifts. You know, they just released an entire errata set that make like gifts, right?
Yeah.
Like it is impossible to put the genie back in the bottle at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like the over trigger is still doable. There's like 5 cards that need the over trigger right now.
It's the Dragon Tree and then like the new grade 3s that everybody got where you
So like and the
them.
Dragon Tree is still like solvable, right? Like you can just say that you can only have the OT and ride deck.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dragon Tree still works. Like the over trigger is like still fixable. They just like won't do it. Like I don't know how you like deal with gifts other than just like uncreating V format, which they will never do.
But you also just can't do that. Like it is actually impossible at this point.
It's so intrinsically tied with the game. I think it's been with the game longer than it hasn't. You know what I mean?
It's I think at this point it's been around the game longer than original Vanguard has existed.
That's what I'm saying. It's been in the game for longer than it hasn't been in the game.
Yeah.
But it's I'm more agnostic to how ruinous gifts are. They're incredibly insane. I agree with you guys on that, but I don't think it's it ruined Vanguard overall. It definitely like fucked some shit up, but I don't think it ruined it. The only way I can see you like putting the genie back in the bottle, or at least tying it to a lamppost or something, is if you do like a hard amount of gifts that can be made per turn. Like as a master roll. That's one. Like that's probably the only way you do it where you slow it down, but then you shut off a lot of effects. Like you're not going to go into freaking not Ganslot, Mordred or whatever.
I mean, like they still can't do that just because like it invalidates certain cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they would have to errata so many things.
Okay, so you either have to errata a ton of stuff, or make the master roll and let the chips fall where they lie. We're like, all right, some cards are just dead now. Bless you.
Like every history collection card stops working.
You got to put it at 2 then, if that's how it's going to be. But or it just gives you 1. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, I think this is probably like the question where the 3, like you guys are on the same side and I'm on the other. I'm probably not budging for a while. So
okay.
Yeah. Cool. I guess we'll move on to the main topic du jour, which is MBT did a video on his channel last week before.
No, it was like a couple days ago.
All right. So it was about the new player experience in Yu-Gi-Oh! And how there's kind of not a good one.
So it's more in-depth than this. So Konami recently had a shareholder meeting, and one of the points that was brought up was like the conversion rate between like Master Duel players and like paper TC or paper Yu-Gi-Oh players is like not very high. People have a hard time converting. They have a hard time retaining new players. And so, you know, one of the points is that like the knowledge you gain in Master Duel doesn't translate into paper play. There was also a point about live streams not being very interesting because you cannot surrender in the OCG. So if someone is doing a 30-minute turbo negate combo that you know is just an FTK, even if it's not a literal FTK, you just gotta sit there and
You
be
let
like,
your opponent jack off.
yeah.
That's too bad.
Like, all right, I've summoned like Baron and Borreload Savage and Borrel your turn. All right, play this, got negated. Play another card, gets negated. Okay, your turn. Please hit me for lethal.
That means if you know you've lost and you want to conceal like your deck choice, you'll just like have to like just pass turn.
Yeah.
Or like you can't scoop in response to the, like, let's say like, well, Mind Hacker's banned, but you get the idea.
Yeah. So,
God.
so that was the other point, is just that, like, live streams are unbearable because you watch someone do this 30-minute combo and their opponent's just sitting there like, yep, cool. I still don't have any responses to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, a big point was made in multiple videos because everyone has made videos about it.
True.
That, like, the problem with the problems with onboarding into Yu-Gi-Oh in general, and then the problem with converting to Master Duel. So Master Duel is just like insanely far behind, like insanely far behind the TCG, which is already behind the OCG. So, you see a new card get revealed, and it's like, in the TCG, you're like, okay, it's 3-4 months away. In Master Duel, it's like, okay, I'll see this next year, maybe.
Yep.
And so that's a problem. But also just like Yu-Gi-Oh is both insanely complex and insanely complicated.
Yes.
So, Yu-Gi-Oh is very complex. That, like, for example, Sprite Blue just represents like the full combo, but also interacting with it like doesn't really matter. And trying to get a new player to understand that is very difficult. But it's also just insanely complicated in that you have to keep track of like once per turns, lingering effects. If you're type locked to something.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those just like random minutia. And so, moving over to Vanguard, because this is not a Yu-Gi-Oh podcast.
Nexus at Night, the Yu-Gi-Oh podcast. It's been a long time since I said that joke.
Yeah, so I think some overlapping problems that we have with Yu-Gi-Oh is like price. The current price of the game is very difficult. I think it's even worse in regards to Vanguard, because at least Master Duel is free. We have to pay $70 for our online simulator, and it's equally far behind as Master Duel.
And is only one format.
Yes, and it's only one format. Right. We are lacking good starter products right now. Konami just announced a new like 2-player set. It's gonna have like a scripted scenario for you to run through if you're trying to learn the rules. And it seems promising because they put like a Monadium card and Zeus on the cover. So it's like there's a distinct possibility that they are introducing cards into that set that is not just like normal Summon Breaker the Magical Warrior.
Yeah.
Just to like rip from MBT's video.
Yeah.
So, Vanguard doesn't have that. Like, we don't have anything that like teaches you the game. And a lot of our starter product right now is like irrelevant, right?
Yeah, so you had the deck set with
let's go
Grand Blue.
Yeah, let's go look at like everything. Like we had the 5 starter decks for D. Nirvana is irrelevant now because there's a new one.
Yeah.
Bruce is irrelevant because there's a new one. Magnolia and Bastion are getting new forms, although it seems like Magnolia is cursed to have a mask form. Good luck with that.
Please no. Come on, give me a purple Bruce, but for Magnolia, I'll live with that. I can't do the mask. If it is a mask, I will do something stupid on.
We'll
camera.
find out on Tuesday.
We'll find that on Tuesday for next week.
But yeah, I think you're getting cursed with a mask, so that one's like half relevant because you still need the old Magnolia.
Yeah.
So Bastion's getting a new form, Seraph, but like you still need to buy Pure Lights.
Yeah.
Same with like Kyrie, you need the grade 4.
Mm-hmm.
The set 6 starter decks don't even count because you have to buy like the real versions of the card from the main sets. So like those are irrelevant. They're completely replaceable.
Mm-hmm.
So out of the like starter decks, you have Bavsagra that is still playable in its current form, where you don't have to buy like an additional boss unit to go with the one that's coming in the TD, right? you know, and then you have like the stride sets for Chronojet and Messiah, but it's like the stride decks play on a slightly different axis from normal Vanguard decks, right? Because you have striding, and nothing really explains how striding works. Like, it's still on the card, but
Yeah, I mean, on the plus side, it is kind of at least a little competitively viable, but it's not good. You're right, for like a starter product.
like it's competitively viable for sure, but like
Yeah.
it's not a good starter product. It doesn't teach you like the same kinds of principles that you would need for like a regular standard deck. And if
Yeah.
that's what you were trying to do, because that is the main format, you know, it's not a good product for that. It doesn't include a rule book, I don't believe. Or does it? Because it's been a while since I opened it.
I can't remember what for
like the stride decks, because we both bought the Messiah one, but I don't believe it comes with a rule book or anything, right?
It comes with a bunch of knicknacks and stuff like the markers and whatnot, but not the rule book. We do have the Graham Grace Orphist Favernale.
Yeah, but those are basically the equivalent of like Yu-Gi-Oh structure decks, right? Like they're not designed for new players. And again, I think they don't actually include like rule books or anything, so it's not. I think it's better for a new player because they include a lot of staple cards and like they operate on the same axis as like normal decks, right? Like you have Persona Ride and everything, so it like teaches you the experience of standard better than the stride decks.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like you said, you had the Night Rose Hari deck, but those were like bad and apparently didn't do very well.
No, it was mostly for like
50 cards has just come out and said that it was better to just open it up and sell it as singles than as a sealed product because no one's buying it as a sealed product.
Yeah. For the people who want to try premium, usually the way they do it is if they're in standard, they ask their friend at locals who goes, you should play blank thing because it's similar to other thing that you're playing in standard, or this is good and cheap, try this. It's not something where you walk into your your locals and you're like, hey, I want to try a premium, and the guy's like, bam, I got you. Like there's nothing to point to.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because the Night Rose Hari set flopped, we're probably not getting another one because Bushiroad does not know how to make good products.
Create that product, it fails inevitably, and then you say, well,
we tried.
There's nothing we can do about this. So yeah, like things that we have over Yu-Gi-Oh! I think the game is still complex. Like, you still have to understand what your opponent's cards do. You need to understand, like, whether certain units will represent, like, a bigger combo than you can initially see. And you're going to have to learn how to guard efficiently. So I think the complexity of the game is there. I think the biggest thing Vanguard has is not nearly as complicated. You don't have to track, like, a million different pieces of minutia.
Sorry, you didn't realize you were Wyrm locked? How dare you?
Missing the timing isn't really much of a thing in Vanguard.
Even miss timing?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Well, like, so what I mean by that is that Vanguard is better at like the symbols and the text explaining what the card
most cards just do what they're printed as. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But Yu-Gi-Oh hasn't had any particularly weird interactions. I don't think too recently.
Yeah, I think recently they've been better about like problem solving card text does a lot. Although, again, that does introduce a lot of silly minutia. Like, access code does not specifically say the word target on it, therefore it does not target.
Look, there's a lot of that. A lot of that.
Yeah.
Or things that can't target because they choose on resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's that. There's like also the stuff where because of how your sentences are formatted and you don't have like shorthand for things of that nature, it takes up so much space. So for a new player who like pulls up, Endymion or whatever, the pendulum monster is like, okay, fuck this, I'm out. Like it's daunting for a new player. I think.
Like, Endymion's kind of low-hanging fruit, but even a card like Baron de Fleur, right? Aside from like the quick effect symbol, it has it has 3 effects, and it's very difficult to parse where one ends and another begins.
Yeah, like Vanguard, at least you have auto, continuous, act like it's separate for each thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is the OCG does have bullet points, and that has just never converted into the English side of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, that's weird. That's
Yeah, I'm not sure why they haven't. And we don't. But like the other part too is like you look at somebody who played Yu-Gi-Oh before and goes to Master Duel to boot up fucking Blue Eyes, White Dragon,
Yeah, Dark
and
Magician.
then they get into a game and your opponent's like Runic Floodgate deck, and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
this is certainly
You know, like activate a Rudic card, summon Hugin. You ashed my Hugin, summon Sprite Blue.
And you're like, wow, Yu-Gi-Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I think that's where like Vanguard has an advantage, but like I do think Konami is taking steps to like fix the new player problem for Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I said, they're doing like the 2-player thing, and for all of its ills, Master Duel is a way for players to like get into the game.
That is true.
It's that, and then also like not even just to do it themselves, but even like it comes on your feed on TikTok or YouTube or whatever. You have all these content creators using it as a like something to look at. It's what they stream from and things like that. And we've talked about it on this show before. Like Vanguard needs something like that for more eyeballs to be on the game.
Like Dear Days just doesn't cut it. It's too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are at the point where I think Dear Days has enough DLC that you could just buy an actual constructed deck for how much Dear Days cost. And sure, playing Dear Days, you theoretically have access to the entire card pool as long as you're willing to grind for it. But like, you're always going to be like 3-4 sets behind the main game, and that sucks.
It does.
Why should I boot up Dear Days when they're only just now getting to set 8? Like set 10 is such a like astronomical change compared to the format that existed back then.
Yeah.
Like nothing I've learned now applies there. None of the decks I like to play now are in Dear Days, so why would I?
Those Dragon Tree markers, what a difference, am I right?
Yeah, but even just like Hexorb being good. Like we just got a bunch of new lyrical support that I'm picking up.
Yeah.
There's like tons of decks I want to play now where like during set 8, set 9 format, I was pretty like bored.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't really a deck that I was super into. But,
I think that happens in like, whatever, like there are times where, your game of choice where you're just like, nothing I'm playing is good. I don't feel like picking up anything else. I'll wait or whatever.
Yeah.
That's inevitable.
Like there are like dips in the format, but that's besides the point. So yeah. I think like the biggest new player problem we have is just like Bushiroad cannot design a good product to save its life.
Yep. And like, it's really one of those things where like fucking go ask Different Fight for help. You asked him for help for everything else.
Those set 6 trial decks for like Youthberg, Leonore, and Jeweled were just a travesty. Like I don't know why a product like that ever existed. The fact that Bushiro asked around, like, do you want us to reprint this? And shops were just like, no. Like, what are you going to do?
Now, if the October TDs include a rule book, do you think that would like go further for being like a better starter product? Or
I mean, it's still like $50, right? It's still like far too expensive. I think like 15-20 is like the maximum threshold most people would be willing to spend to try a new game.
Right.
Like telling them to drop $50 for a bunch of knickknacks that they're probably not going to care about is a pretty like hard ask. This product feels like it's designed for people who already play the game.
Yeah.
How much is a Pokemon structure deck?
It's like, God, I think they're like $20. You can spend like $30 to get a 2-player set probably. Like Pokemon is insanely cheap.
Actually, I can ask my locals group chat right now. Let's see if
you can literally just like Google it.
I'm gonna say they're like $15. All right. Now, and they come with like packs. They come with like a pack or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like a battle deck is like $10.
Yeah.
Like 10, 15 bucks.
Pokemon has a lot of power in this. They could probably make them more expensive if they wanted to, but they don't because they're for kids. But more so, their IP is very strong.
Yeah.
So if Pokemon's around the $15 range, I mean that's not exactly who you're competing with because Pokemon's going to sell no matter what.
Mhm.
But like, you can't be too much bigger than that, or people are just like it's about Pokemon.
Yeah.
And there was a point where we had like the $5 start decks.
I remember that.
I remember that too. That was
God.
That
The
did not
beginning
last.
of D was so nice. We had so many nice things that they have just completely walked back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they probably lost a fair bit there, just to kind
Yeah.
of get it out the door.
Mm-hmm. One other thing, Yu-Gi-Oh is getting the like scripted battle set with the 2-player thing, but what we have in over other card games is they made a tutorial video for Vanguard that's still like somewhat relevant.
Mhm.
So at the very least, you like learn all of the ground rules.
Yeah, you have that, and then like this is part of the way I learned to play Vanguard 10+ years ago now. Was the early, like before G, before all this. If you watch the first episode of whatever season of the anime it was on, it was a new character walking into the store and be like, "What the fuck is going on?" And they're like, "I'm going to teach you how to play Vanguard," and they just teach you.
Didn't they also have like a web thing where you could like learn how to play the game at one point? This was like very old, but I remember watching that when I like
Vaguely,
started the game.
That might have been after I came in.
Yeah, this was like super old though.
But this is the exact scenario of how I went to Toy Mandala in the Westside Pavilion, both of which don't exist anymore, because I had quit Yu-Gi-Oh! About 6 months before, and I was walking through for whatever reason. And I see these people playing this game, and I was like, "What's this?" And they're like, "This is Vanguard." And then I see them play, and I'm like, "How do I, like, is there a good way to learn to play?" They're like, "Go on YouTube, the anime's on there, watch the first episode." And then I did, and then I came back the next day, and I bought a fuck ton of BTO6, and I made Brain Blue.
Yeah.
And,
but I think there was a thing on Bushiroad's website in the past that was like a scripted web thing that you could do to like learn how to play Vanguard.
Yeah.
It's like completely irrelevant now because standard is completely different, but that was like a thing that they had, right?
Yeah.
And so I do think like Bushiroad does a halfway decent job of like onboarding new players. Like with Shadowverse recently, they had the like demo caravans where they ran you through a scripted scenario. So you actually got to learn like, okay, so cards with ward can like block for you. So your opponent has to attack that.
Yeah.
So you learn what that keyword is and why it's important. They teach you like evolution. So you can see that like, okay, evolving a card lets you attack on the same turn because there's summoning sickness in Shadowverse.
Yeah.
And, so like evolving lets you attack something right away, and they have like powerful effects when they're evolved. Mm-hmm. So they like teach you all the they teach you like the most relevant keywords. There are a bunch that they don't teach you because they're like just like not part of the decks that they use for the scenario.
Yeah.
And you kind of get a hands-on experience to understand like, okay, this is why, certain cards are valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they could stand to do something like that for Vanguard. Like, I wouldn't mind if they put up like a scripted scenario like the one Konami plans to create for Vanguard. I don't know if the Shadowverse scripted scenario is available online. It should be if it isn't. Just as like okay, we're going to sit down. We're just going to run through the scripted scenario so that you understand like the flow of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think people getting the flow of games, even if they don't understand what's going on, is pretty important too.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the first thing I recommend when people like get into, a fighting game or something. Like watch a match, you'll get kind of flow of it, and then get in there and press buttons, fake it till you make it, and then you'll be like, wait, this isn't working. Why isn't this working?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or be like my friend Justin from down the street when I was 5, and we play Super Smash Bros. Together. He doesn't tell me how to play, and is like, just push buttons, and then kicks my ass.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was predestined.
Yeah, for real.
You're gonna learn today.
5-year-olds are dicks. That's
the
lesson from that.
But that was your fault for playing Smash. So
this was like what 1999. So yeah, before Melee even. Yeah. So like Vanguard's good at some things, but I think they're good at the experience, but bad at the product of.
Yeah. And now at this point, like, I think Bushiroad doesn't have the best reputation. like as far as like shops are concerned. So
See that time Luard almost killed Vanguard. That's one of our most popular videos.
They now have this to contend with, which is kind of probably the only thing stopping Shadowverse, really, or the only thing like hindering Shadowverse from just exploding. But Shadowverse is doing quite well, and I hope it continues to do so. It looks like a cool game. I like Swordcraft a lot. Somebody said Maid Knights and just said ship it, and it was the right idea. They put no additional thought into it. And that's all right. And I hear Roadshow thinks this, so everyone's gonna have a good time. Or at least not in the same form that it was.
So yeah, I guess it then, so to the listener, so whether you are like brand spanking new into Vanguard or you're a boomer like me or Matt or Root Beer to an extent, we're all like different levels of VG boomer. But what was it like for you getting into the game, and how do you think Bushiroad could improve on the new player experience? Probably start with the product, but like be specific about what you mean by that, please, in the comments. Or on Twitter at Nexus at Night. That's a good way to get in contact with us. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/Nexus at Night. Thanks to Darren, Cole, Josh, Jeremy, GR, Ali for being $10 patrons. If you give us $10 a month, you get a whole ass bonus show every week, plus these thank yous and your videos a day early. If you just want to kick in $5, you get just the bonus show. And if you kick in $1, we let you into the Discord. So that's always a good time. So yeah, how about the rest of us?
Find me on Twitter at Wiggums, 2 G's, 2 Z's.
You can find me at Plasma Eclipse.
Find me at Atlas Novak, Twitter while it still stands, Instagram or TikTok, or on YouTube as The Epileptic Comic, or you can check out my other podcast, Generation Dan. So that's at Generation Dan and all the places where you normally find that sort of thing. So thanks everybody for listening. And until next time, I was Atlas.
I'm Matt.
I'm Root Beer.
And have a good night, everybody.